Hello and welcome to this sixth episode of Kylähullu päiväkirja, the diary of the village lunatic. First of all, I go and do this chanting, the prayer I like to do in this podcast. I have two prayers, but this is another one. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. So this reminds me of my intention that everything I think, everything I say, and everything I do is serving the highest good, is serving life the best possible way. So about what I say, this episode is about communication that I have been. We can start with how I came across this topic. So I remember being a child, quite young, and my parents were fighting, arguing, and I was thinking like it happened a few times, and at some point maybe I asked him, and I was wondering like why is it that my parents, they don't take time to understand what each person means. Like I noticed this, like one said something and then the other person was hearing something else that was not even said. So I was wondering like why it is that they don't take some time to learn to hear each other. So ever since a kid, I was fascinated about this topic of communication. Also, in the share houses I have been living, I noticed the same, that people living together, they misunderstand, they don't want to understand, or they don't have time, or whatever it is, but there often comes this topic of communication is causing some disharmony and a lot of problems in the relationship. So about 7 years ago, I was introduced this. It's called nonviolent communication by an American psychologist called Marshall Rosenberg. So I read one of his books and then I listened to some audio discourse from him. Then I was joining a webinar, a weekend webinar. Then I practiced, of course, with my wife and with some friends. And so I found this method of communication that I now call like communication that promotes harmony and well-being. So it's like it's a method I have created, and anybody can give it any name that they wish. So this is the podcast I've been thinking about making for a long time. This year already in the spring, like now is the summer, now is actually 1st July. So I think it was in April I was doing this kind of presentation, this kind of lecture in the school that I was feeling like I want to share what I know and what I have experienced about communication, because I feel like the world would be much more in harmony if everybody would learn how to communicate with each other well. So that's why I have created this kind of method that I like to teach to others. And like I said, it's based on this non-violent communication, but it's also not that. It's my own way of understanding it. So I'm not a professional or any kind of official teacher of any kind of. I have my own experience of life and things I have collected, and it's kind of a mix of different things. So I'm going to present to you listeners. I have made a PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to show on the computer, and then I'm going to explain those things I wrote down there, so you can learn from my examples. The best way for this lecture, of course, would be to do it live, because then like you would have the chance to ask me questions that you don't know, or if you want clarification on something. But this is the best way to share this information to others. And yesterday I made this same episode in Finnish, because there's a lot of information about communication in English available already on the net. But then I was thinking also I want to record this in English, because I have friends, I have family who don't understand Finnish so well, or maybe not at all. So, and also I want to share to everybody my way of understanding this communication, which is different from anybody else's understanding. As I said before, each one of us has our own truth and our own way of understanding things, and this is just my way. So if something doesn't resonate with you, if it doesn't work for you, then please just leave it aside. Say like, that's not for me. So that's the beginning of this lecture. Just want to give you some background of how I came across this awareness of the communication. So that's it. I'm going to present the PowerPoint now, and I wish you a lot of learning from it, and practice those skills I'm talking about to make your life better, and also to make life better for other people around you. So hello and welcome to this episode of Kyläoulun päiväkirja, the diary of village lunatic. So I'm presenting this communication episode. I did another one of these the other day in Finnish. So it took me some days to make all the material in English. And then took some time to have a good moment to present this. So let's start. Communication that promotes well-being and harmony, health and well-being. So this is based on the method of NVC, which is non-violent communication, but it's not the same. It's my own creation, or kind of integration of different methods of different things I learned, which I use like A short version is CPHW, is communication that promotes health, harmony, and well-being. Yes, that's it. So it's communication that connects with life. How I can make life more wonderful for everyone, not just for one person. This is also known as giraffe language because giraffe have a big heart, means that they have a lot of empathy. Giraffe also have a long neck, means that they can observe objectively things happening. It's a very important part of this communication technique, the ability to observe. So-called normal speech that people are used to using, it's in here called jackal language. Jackal is a little animal that looks like a dog. It's very aggressive, very threatening. So my experience with this, I already gave an introduction how I was a little kid and my parents were fighting and arguing about something. It happened a few times, and I was wondering why it is that us humans don't take some time to learn these skills, how to communicate in a way that promotes harmony and well-being. So, yeah, that was the beginning of this awareness of the importance of learning the skills of communication. So, the actual learning of this particular method started 7 years ago, more or less about. I read this book called Language of Life. Then I listened to a 10-hour audio discourse or a course, and I attended a weekend workshop. And in addition, I have practiced this with my wife and other friends. By teaching, I can learn more. That is why I want to share my experiences. So a little bit of structure of the lecture. Part one is history. Structure. OFNR is observations, feelings, needs, and requests. These are the four parts of this technique. Part two is communication that separates us from life. It's so-called normal communication, which works with the assumptions, interpretations, judgments, accusing, comparison, denial of responsibility, labeling, opinions, and demands. Um, and part three is more information, strategies. People can have the same needs, but strategies for fulfilling them can be very different. Then we have the false feelings that people think are feelings, but actually they are not. Then we have gratitude and constructive feedback. Then we have some reflection also. By the way, in the background, you can hear some singing of the birds outside. I'm recording this in my living room because I don't have a professional sound studio. So we have life happening around. History and structure. So American psychologist called Marshall Rosenberg created this NVC, which this is based on in the mid 60s. Basic structure has 4 steps, so it's simple. Observations, feelings, needs, and requests. It is important that observation does not contain any interpretations or assumptions. It is an objective event that could be possible to record on a video. Observation does not contain feelings or needs. Those are the next steps. two sides of CPHW, honest expression of the four steps, and emphatic listening of the four steps. So this technique creates a good balance between logic and between emotions. Logic is the masculine energy, and emotions is the feminine. So it creates a good balance. So observation, the first step, can have two elements. It's like inner observation and outer observation. So this philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti from India said that the ability to observe without evaluation is the highest form of intelligence. Also, other wise teachers like the Buddha, for example, also said how important it is to be able to observe without reacting to it. It's a bit of the same thing. Just um, this kind of objective observation is very important skill. All the people can make the same observation about something that happens in the external world. Of course, people have different uh, views of same thing can happen, but somebody can see. Let's say there's a car accident, and somebody can see like observe one little detail, and somebody else can observe another detail. Feelings and needs are inner observations. So in Vipassana meditation, we learn to observe physical sensations in the body without reacting to them. It is also an important tool in communication. Yeah, I recommend this Vipassana meditation retreat as a very good tool to learn to observe things, work with the mind. So observation without connection to feelings and needs can be disconnected from life. If we play only with words, they can be used as a tool for manipulation. So when communicating, it's important also to be aware of your feelings and your needs. It's easy if you start to not, if you just, or if I talk without like awareness of my feelings, it can very easily become this like intellectual game, and then it's easy to start to manipulate with words. Um, then is the feelings and the needs. Every feeling that awakens in us is an indication of a need. When our needs are not fulfilled, we feel unpleasant feelings. And when our needs are fulfilled, we feel pleasant feelings. We can feel empathy towards others when we get connected to our own needs. That is why it's important to acknowledge them. Everybody is responsible for their own feelings. It is not possible to transfer that responsibility. All humans have the same basic needs. We just have different strategies to fulfill them. Later on, we'll come more to that part. Then one interesting point is this biodanza, it's a form of dance therapy. It has helped me a lot to get in touch with my feelings. So there's a lot of information about biodanza in English. I recommend people get to know more about it. Um, myself, I want to be a part of bringing this biodanza to Finland. because I think many people would benefit from it. Just as a side notice to this, Maslow, there is this, I think he's called Abraham Maslow, one psychologist, I think. So one theory to understand human behavior is Maslow's hierarchy of needs that explains that before basic level of needs are fulfilled, we can move to upper levels. So this is one theory to understand why people behave like they do. Uh, it can be very challenging for a person to be open-minded if they are missing a sense of safety. This is one discussion I had with our school psychologist. Once I was wondering, like, I said to her, I always been this kind of, in my opinion at least, I've been kind of open-minded. I wanted to always learn about different cultures and different religions and always trying to understand someone else's point of view. I was wondering why some people they are like so close-minded and don't really have patience a lot. In those cases, then she said to me that this thing that if people don't have a sense of safety, they are kind of like it can become this certain very fixed opinions about things. It's a way of trying to get that sense of safety. Then I think about in the modern world, in this um, media, which is like conventional news and all this stuff. They are like spreading a lot of fear, and yeah, just an observation. Maybe that also helps to explain why there's so much of this. People are getting kind of close-minded. Some cases. This is also interesting. I was thinking this asceticism or other form of renouncing basic needs for spiritual growth is an example of how important need for a human being is to do something meaningful. Like spirituality is very important need for many people, also for me. Then this asceticism that people renounce, like sleeping or eating, in just to search for some spiritual growth. Um, yeah, it can also influence someone to change their way of behaving, which can be different from ordinary idea of this basic hierarchy of needs. It's also good to remember it is one theory. It's not always like this, but can help to understand. So this is the fourth part of the technique. It's called request. Request is an action that helps fulfilling needs. The ideal situation is to get everybody's needs fulfilled in a discussion. So if there's 2 or 3 participants, ask for what enriches your life. Request must be clear, positive, which means request for what you want, not for that what you don't want. Time specific, doable, possible to do. So in a request, it's good to or important to say like when do you want something to happen. In a clear request, there is observation, there is feeling, there is a need. So these 3 previous steps. Actually, it's important to have before you come with a request. It's important to first bring these 3 first steps. Request is not a demand. accept no, but this is good to remember uh, that it's not a demand. If you get a negative answer, try to find out what stops the other person from saying yes, and then try to find a way to get both needs fulfilled. Yeah, somebody could call it a compromise, but yeah, try to find out like what you can do to get both needs fulfilled of you and of the other person. So then we go to emphatic listening. We ask what the other person wants. Is it just listening without any comments, questions, advice, peer support, if I can give? Now, us men have this habit of giving advice even before being asked, or even if the other person is not asking for advice. So this is a good reminder for myself. And this peer support thing is like peer support I can give in cases if I have experience of something. For example, somebody comes to me telling about uh, mental challenges of getting the mind in balance and this kind of uh, yeah, that I have experienced myself of these anxieties and depressions and panic attacks and stuff like that. Though in that case, I can give peer support to someone. But if somebody has, for example, let's say somebody comes to say, "Oh, I had this addiction to alcohol," so in that case, I would try to find someone who can advise a person who also had the experience themselves. Because I haven't had that, so I can't really give peer support. Listen for what people observe, feel, and need. Also, good to remember that listening with empathy does not contain these following things. Advice. Oh, I think you should. Teaching. It would be good if you did like this. Silencing. There is no need to worry about it. Pity. Oh, you poor thing. Explaining. I would have called, but correcting. That is not how it went. And this last thing is like when we are listening, then we just listen. We don't correct. When it is our turn to talk, then if there is a need, then we can get the facts straight or clear. So then after we listen and give empathy to the other person, then we can say like, okay, so now I would like to give my perception of the events because to try and get some clarity for what actually really happened. Of course, would be useful if there's another person or some way of knowing the actual facts. But also remember that we all have our own perception of reality and what is true. So then we go to part two, which is communication that separates us from life. Part two, this Jackal language is concerned with always asking who is right and who is wrong. It contains these assumptions, interpretation, judgment, accusing, comparison, denial of responsibility, labels, opinions, and demands. This Jekyll speech does not consider feelings and needs, so it separates us from life. it is also easy to manipulate when just using words. Yeah, like I noticed in the past I was doing it myself, and I noticed like when people just talk, use words, but they don't go into the feelings or needs, then I kind of notice it easily becomes like a manipulation. So when I say connected to life, I mean life like the emotions that are alive in us. That's the life. Giraffe language is me centered. So when I say like I observe like this, I feel like this, I have this feeling, I'm not like saying anything about you. Also, I try my best not to speak on anybody else's behalf. Sometimes people speak violently themselves. For example, if making a mistake, they can say like, "How can I be so stupid?" I have noticed speaking to oneself is often similar as the way a person talks to others. It is either kind of violent. Because I say that even if you're not, if you don't have much to do with other people, if you spend time alone a lot, but still it's very important and useful to learn this communication skills because like how do you speak to yourself? So denial of responsibility is next. There's different ways of denying responsibility. So in personal forces, I do it because I must. Personal history or diagnosis, I drink because I'm alcoholic. I do this thing because I have this diagnosis. Actions of others, I shout because he said to me, orders. I lied to the customer because the boss ordered. An extreme example of this is in Nazi Germany when people, everybody knows like thousands of people were killed, and the ones who actually did those things, who pushed the button and all these things, they just said, "Oh, we were only following orders." So they were not taking any responsibility for what they actually did. Then in screw pressure, I started smoking because my friends were smoking. This happens a lot with teenagers. I understood. Rules, you are fired because the rules say so. Social roles, I have to go to the office because I'm the husband, or I have to uh, take care of the kids alone because I'm the wife, all these things. Or uncontrollable impulses. I was overcome by my urge to eat chocolate. So that's also not taking responsibility for eating the chocolate. It's like, oh, it's like an urge ordered me to do that. So then we have authority is important thing to understand a little bit. Respect can't be demanded; it is given out of free will. When we notice that someone has skills or qualities that we don't have, and that they share them with others out of their free will, so then we give respect to someone. Structural power, for example, in a company, can give a person a certain position of authority, but it should be left there. For example, army. And this is like I remember as a kid hearing that in our neighbor there was a man who was like some kind of important person or a person with a certain authority position in the army. But then when he came home, he was behaving in the same way with his wife and with his kids. He was still thinking that he's commanding, has the commanding position, so he was not able to leave his role in his working place. Then they divorced because the wife was saying like, no, what is this kind of man? So it's just an example. It's also good to remember that everybody is a human being, also these authority figures. So let's find a connection to each other through feelings and needs. We have a tendency to project our childhood traumas on authority figures. For example, on the vests of security guards. Yeah, like when I was working in security, I was told that okay, people often they don't react to you, but does this vest, that's security. Same with the police. And it's very easy for us to kind of again make this authority figure like something impersonal and then react because we have these things from we were kids and something happened with the parents and it's this kind of childhood trauma like I wrote there. So it has an impact with authority figures. It's good to just be mindful of that. So meditation and CP or W, we defend our own point of view without understanding that I'm wearing glasses that are blue and you have glasses that are red. Everyone has our own truth. So yeah, this is important to remember that every person depends on our past experiences, depends on what kind of things that we look for. Then we see things in different ways. So like there's not one universal truth that applies for all the people in the same way. These things that I wrote here is more like what I understand from these meditation retreats and that's the stories in there. But I hope somebody can understand from these stories what I want to say. So everyone paints an image of ourselves and of other people, then we defend that image. Although it is not the person, the image is not the person, either of ourselves or of the other person. And more close connection we have to the person, the more we defend that image. Like it's very different if some kid is doing something on the street and then it's my child. It's a big difference. Or some random guy is doing something silly on the street or looks a bit like homeless. And it's like, oh, it doesn't matter. But when it's like my husband, then it's like different thing. Or my wife or my this and that, my parents. When it's mine, then it becomes more important than just this person. So good to remember this. Like remember that we have these images of ourselves also. Often we have very strong attachment and we defend the feelings and ways of thinking that cause us suffering. Reason for that is because we have identified ourselves with them. For example, I had identified myself as a depressed person for 10 years. Yeah, it's like when my father died and I was 13 and after that I started to have this depression and I was carrying that for 10 years without understanding. I was carrying it, and yeah, like it was so unconscious, but it became part of my identity only when I was 24, going to this Vipassana meditation retreat, and I understood, like, okay, look at yourself. I just get this voice, like, to me, almost like I understood, like, oh, look at me, I'm still carrying this idea of myself as depressed. I understood I can let it go, but then it was like strange feeling, like, oh, some part of me just wanted to carry the depression because it was like, who am I without this depression? But this is like the way our mind works. Punished by Rewards is a book written by American psychologist R.T. Cohen. He is showing in the book how people are being manipulated by rewards. In numerous studies, it has been shown that people perform worse at work when their only motivation is rewards, such as money, awards, compliments, stars in the school, all these things. Rewards and punishments are two sides of the same coin, and this ideology is based on the carrot and stick model of conditioning developed by psychologist B. F. Skinner based on animal experiments. Yeah, it was some experiments where I think it was with rats, and there was some like a button in the cages of the rats, and one study was like rat press the button and they get food, and another thing was like they press the button and they get electric shock or something like that. So I was thinking it's a good addition to this thinking or understanding of the normal kind of thinking model is like rewards and punishments are kind of a way to motivate or manipulate people to do certain things. But it's like, again, things that come from the outside. Um, yeah, and this whole point of this communication is to understand that everything that we need to understand, it starts from inside. Like the situation, this is the situation we are in. What I feel, what happens inside myself, how do I react to that, what happens inside myself. So, but this kind of punishment and reward is like the juggle, this normal kind of ideology. I just want to share this for us to think about it, be aware. So, speech in different spiritual traditions. So, for example, there's this noble speech in Buddhism, which is honest, benevolent, and peace promoting speech, avoiding discord, gossip, idle talk, and hate speech. This picture is from the Sufi tradition, saying, before you speak, let your words pass through these three gates. First question is it true? The next question is it necessary? And then we ask, is it kind? Then we, if the what we want to say is going through all these three gates, then it's okay. Then it might be good. Also in Christianity, I think there is something about words, at least about not lying. So now we come to part 3, which is strategies. So people can have the same need, for example, need to relax, but the way their strategy for fulfilling this need can be very different. For example, someone likes to listen to heavy metal music to relax. Actually, no one quite like that. Uh, then other people like classical music, like me. That's relaxing. Somebody want to go running to relax. Somebody else wants to meditate silently, sitting on the floor as a way to relax. So, same need in all these cases, but very different way of getting the need met. When we separate needs from their strategy, we can find mutual understanding and find a way to get everybody's needs met. All people have the same basic needs. This is the, this last thing, people understand each other's needs is related to this, like all the people have the same basic needs. Later on, we have a look at them, needs and the feelings. There can be misunderstanding between people when they have different strategies for getting the needs met. So, gratitude and constructive feedback. So, gratitude following this model of communication. What I said or I did with just observation, what feeling came from it, and what need of yours was fulfilled. That's the when we express gratitude following this model, it is easier to understand and not take it as manipulation or flattery. Uh, Same with constructive feedback, like what happened, what was the feeling, and the need that was not fulfilled in this case. What could be done differently? That's the request. So when we express feedback by following this model, it is easier to learn from it. Then we come to force emotional expressions, force expressions. For example, I feel like an outsider or attacked, misunderstood, abandoned, bullied, cheated, unwanted, etc. False emotional expressions, we recognize that somebody else is the cause. They do not arise from within. Uh, and these expressions are not real feelings, but thoughts or interpretations of the situation and the feelings that arise from it. For example, in the Taco language, if somebody says, I feel abandoned, then if we translate it into giraffe language, uh, it could be something like this. When I am not invited to a restaurant, I feel sad because I have a need to belong to the group. Could you invite me next time? So this is like different. Yeah, it's also possible to do something about the situation. I just noticed myself like this statement, like somebody says, "I feel abandoned." It's like there's nothing to do about it. That's like the final thing. But when there's this statement of the feelings and the needs after the observation, then there's actually something that we can do about the situation. Therapy. So this technique is also a good tool in therapy. If the feeling that arises in the situation does not respond to any need right now, it may be a reaction to a trauma and I can start to process it. For example, in my case, I had a separation anxiety from my mother that was caused by a cesarean section, which is like when when being born, if you are just cut out of the stomach of the womb of the mother, then you're not really born like naturally. And that kind of leaves a certain, uh, yeah, it's like feeling of not being born. So that again, it came clearly up in some relationships I had. I understood like, okay, well, this is actually separation anxiety from my mother I was feeling. Um, Another uh, thing I had was this discomfort in group situations. And that was because I was bullied a lot in the school. This is also PTSD, is this post-traumatic stress disorder, like the people who go to war, they might have that. It's also trauma response. That's why I think also this communication method can be very good for these kind of cases. Sometimes a discussion can awaken a trauma and parties can react to it with violent language either toward the other or themselves. Yeah, like so it's good to understand that sometimes there's a discussion and one person says something and the other is reacting very strongly, and then you examine that and you realize like there was some trauma that was like came up in that situation, and then yeah, then you work with the trauma that came up. Um, so mediation is also a very good tool for mediation. This technique. Clear observation helps to notice what is happening in a situation. Mediation helps to express feelings and needs clearly, also to hear the other person with empathy. We get clarity on everyone's feelings and needs. We can find strategies to fulfill everyone's needs. We learn clear requests. So it's useful if there's a situation where two people cannot agree and to get a third person who can mediate the situation so you get more clarity. So what we learn from this NVC book, empathy is a skill that we can learn and teach. It's not something. Sometimes people think, oh, empathy is like inborn quality, like you either have it or you don't. But it's a skill. Also, some people, of course, have naturally more than others. For Marshall Rosenberg, it was important to have a name, nonviolence, in the name of the technique because he admired the work of Mahatma Gandhi. So I put this Ahimsa in there because in India it's known as Ahimsa. So that because sometimes like why have even this name like non-violent? Why have the name violence at all in the technique? But for Rosenberg it was important to to have the name because of Gandhi. So Gandhi is also like my political hero. I mean, I don't know much about politics, but I admire Gandhi as well. So this is from Rosenberg. He said, "Goal of life is not to be perfect, but become progressively less stupid." So at least here in Finland, us Finnish people are a bit perfectionist. So this is good for us to remember. So more information for those who want to know more. There's books from Rosenberg. It's called Nonviolent Communication, A Language of Life. Then is this book from Oren J. Sofer called Say What You Mean. This Oren is also Vipassana meditation teacher or Buddhist meditation teacher. So I was very happy to read that book. He explains how meditation and this way of communication they work together in a harmony in a beautiful way, and that's also my experience. Like I have 11 years of practice meditation technique, and I also know from my own experience that this kind of method of communication is a very useful tool. There's YouTube that you can find this NVC Marshall Rosenberg San Francisco workshop, full English subtitles, transcripts, and this is 3 hours hit that he just goes through all the basic things about NVC. Very, very good, very useful. You can find also a lot of other things from Rosenberg and other people as well. So in Finland there's this Savannah Connections. It's a good source of also materials like this tunne- ja tarvekortit, cards for the feelings and needs in Finnish. They also have words in English. So online NVC workshops there's a lot, and there's this last link is one very nice article I read about. I don't remember exactly, but it's very good about NVC and how you use it in life. So this is practical exercise. Which if I was doing this lecture in front of the people, I could ask people to do it. So now you can just uh, see like what need of yours, what do you feel now, what need of yours was fulfilled. Um, yeah, and what you can learn. Like we learn to make these observations, recognize feelings and needs, plus making clear requests. So all the techniques need practice. So practice. That's my advice. Then here is some reflection. How do we communicate if the other person does not want to communicate? By explaining our own observations, our feelings and needs. After that, guessing the feelings and needs of the other person. And if we get them wrong, usually the other person is going to correct us. So this communication for children, we can use jackal and giraffe hand puppets. Rosenberg also likes to use them in some videos you see. We can start with kids by explaining them emotional skills. I'm happy to notice, like here in Finland, at least they start to tell about. They have like these emotional skills in the school already, starting the first grade. I think that's very good. We didn't have that when I was a kid. But of course, things change in 40 years. Jackal language has been taught to the people by those in power. When we are aware of the forces that guide our lives, which is the feelings and the needs, we are more difficult to control. When the people are divided into two sides, those who are right and those who are wrong, it is easy to get people to argue with each other, and those in power can continue their activities. This nonviolent communication audio training course, I listened to it explain this very clearly. That what Marshall understood, like this way of communication that's called like the normal way, is taught to people because of a purpose, just to keep having this kind of structure in the society to keep people divided. How is it common and conquer or something like when you can make the population argue between each other, then it's like easy for the people in charge to continue. So here is list of feelings. You can find us anywhere in Google. So feeling list. This is actually from the cards that I got from this Savannah Connections in Finland. They are very useful to have these cards to help to facilitate a discussion, even if you are not sure about your own feelings. Also, here is a list of needs. Uh, Again, it's useful to know this either for yourself or in a discussion with other people. And finally, I want to mention more about this Vipassana meditation that I know from experience. So, Vipassana means to see things as they are and not the way as we would like them to be. In practice, the actual practice is awareness of breathing and the bodily sensations we experience, and at the same time we learn not to react to them with either craving nor aversion. So it's like very normal human thing. Often happens like we feel something and we either want more of it or we want to get rid of it. So we learn in the meditation just to observe without this reaction. The purpose of concentrating on breathing in the beginning of the retreat, so it's 10-day retreat. So the purpose of concentrating on breathing is to learn to focus the mind so that we can learn to maintain awareness of bodily sensations. The other part of the retreat is like being aware of the bodily sensations, which are directly connected to the unconscious habits of reacting with anger or sadness. Uh, we have 6 sense doors that cause bodily sensations. We have the eyes, we have the sight, then we have ears, and we have hearing, then we have the tongue, and we have the taste, we have the nose and the smell, and we have the skin, and we feel the touch, we have the mind, and we have thinking. Mind is usually either in the past or in the future. So I just wanted to say a little bit about this meditation because it helps to understand also in the communication. It helps when you are able to observe what happens in a, let's say somebody comes to say something and usually you're happy just to react with anger to the feeling that you have in you get a certain sensation in the body. But when you learn to not react to it, then you can more observe what the person is saying instead of reacting. So I just want to add this to thinking about communication and how it helps to meditate. Mm. So that's it. If you have any questions, you are free to send me email. I hope that this short lecture was giving you some benefits in your daily life. And I wish you all the best for the rest of the evening. Until next time, bye bye.